You probably already watched Squid Game Season 2 by now, a global phenomenon that I was lucky to be a part of. And if you haven't, thank you for clicking this video, but also know that there's going to be some spoilers ahead. So I was an actor in the English dub of Season 2 of Squid Game, specifically playing this guy, Choi Woo-seok. Very fun character, super excited to have played him. Yeah, and I'm going to do some comparisons of the original Korean with my dub version, because I want to give you all a peek behind the scenes of how dubbing kind of works and explain things like why sometimes the words don't match the subtitles. By the way, this isn't a video about whether dubs or subs are better, because I know there's a lot of purists out there. Dubs exist, and they are helpful for many reasons for many different types of people. Some people may have dyslexia, low vision, or just don't read as fast as others. Some people want the convenience to be able to multitask. And yes, some people legitimately refuse to consume any sort of content that is not spoken in the only language they know. But whatever the reason, I'm grateful because it means I get to be employed once in a while. Anyway, let's get to it. And again, spoiler alert. Okay, so I think the easiest way to do this is to just play it line by line and do a comparison. So here we go.
자, 주목하세요. 지금부터 우리가 찾아야 될 사람은 바로 이 사람입니다.
Okay, boys, listen up. The person you've all been hired to track down is this guy right here. So dubbing has a thing where they want to match the lips to the words. But because this didn't have so many shots just now of Woo-seok talking, it's a little bit more flexible. I think the reason why the dialogue is kind of a lot more different than the subtitles for this one is really just the localization. Somewhere along the line, a decision was made to make the localization, I think, very specifically for American English. Yeah, this is what I think sounded right for them. It's not a decision I make as an actor.
키는 큰 키, 아마 뭐 180도 넘을 겁니다.
So even right there, you can hear the Korean kind of has like a thing, which, you know, isn't in American English. Luckily in this scene, you'll see in a bit, we didn't have to worry so much about that, especially because it's in like the back of the throat. You won't see that. But there are some things that happen with our mouths if we speak Korean that doesn't necessarily happen with English. And so there are tricks that we had to figure out to make it match.
이 곱상한 얼굴에 양복을 잘 차려 입고 서류 가방을 들고 다니는데 이 서류 가방 안에는 돈다발하고 딱지가 들어 있습니다.
Yep. He's a tall guy, probably right around 6 feet. He's got nice hair, handsome, wears a real nice suit. And he always carries a briefcase. The briefcase contains stacks of cash and dakji. Okay? I think for everyone working on a dub and people watching too, we all kind of recognize that it is a little bit unnatural. It isn't something, you know, normal to hear someone else's voice over someone else's body. So we're not really forced to have to like match everything perfectly in terms of like sounding like the original voice. So I did my best to try to match the energy of what I was seeing on screen, but also using how I would speak English and kind of make that make sense, you know.
지하철역에서 지나다니는 사람들 붙잡고 이 딱지를 딱 치는데 치고 나면은 이런 명함을 준다고 합니다. 그런 사람을 발견하는 즉시 우리가 알려드린 번호로 바로 연락 주시면 됩니다.
He finds strangers down on the subway and then he throws dakji with it. So this one, that part he kind of already did in the original. So, and it's very clear that he does that. So it was kind of important for us to match that, which I feel like, you know, wasn't too hard to do. But there's also the language situation. So here we use the word throw dakji, which like technically like that's what you do, but you would think it's more like play dakji. But because of like the way that his mouth moves right around that, I think we ended up needing to use the word throw to try to match it. And I think there's also like a sort of like uncertainty of like whether or not English speakers would know what dakji is. And so it was like needing to try to make it more clear, like how it was played. Then he gives him a business card just like this. You see anyone who looks like this guy, you need to call the number we gave you as soon as you possibly can. So obviously when the character is facing away from the camera, we can kind of do whatever we want because we're not seeing the mouths move. But then this whole part right here, you possibly can. The possibly can. He in the Korean he ends with like I think mida, which happens a lot in Korean because it's like a sort of like suffix, like an honorific suffix, I think. And so because it was so obviously like mida with his mouth open like that, it was tricky. The director basically had me try like a whole bunch of different lines to make it make sense with the original dialogue. As well as make sense just as a sentence in English, as well as match the mouth and the performance of it. So there's a bit of some trial and error in this one. Dubbing is this weird art form that kind of mixes a bunch of different things together, right? Because for one, we're basically like doing karaoke, so the words are coming across the bottom and we're trying to match the timing, but also trying to match the emotion of the character that we see on screen, as well as like if they have any extra things they're doing, like they move when they say something, so we have to match that, or they have something inside of their mouth, so we kind of got to make that sound work as best as we can inside of like an audio booth in a studio instead of being actually on set. And we have to do all of this in the set amount of time that's been scheduled for us. So this scene definitely is one of the big ones I think that shows the difference between like Korean and English. Let's check it out.
형님, 우리가 지금까지 지하철을 2년을 뒤졌다고요. 하루 이틀도 아니고 2년이라고요, 2년. 우리 와이프가 저한테 그 새끼 꼭 잡아내서 게임에 참가를 하래요. 456원 벌어오라고. 아니 진짜 딱지를 치는 놈이 있었으면 우리가 진지게 찾아.
So yeah, hearing the Korean, I feel like so much of it, there's like a lot of the difference of the language, right? The way he uses, the way he speaks, there's a lot of like drawing out like the noises of like drawing out words and stuff that we kind of don't do in American English. So we kind of had to work around that. I mean, again, directly comparing it, what I'm doing now is obviously going to make it seem really awkward, but a lot of the matching, I think, is just on the mouth movement. So it's like, if you don't watch the Korean and you just watch the English dub, then I think it wouldn't be as glaring as what we're doing right now. But let's check it out.
Come on. He's had us combing all these stations for 2 years already. Not for a day or two, we're talking 2 whole years now. You know what my wife says? I should find that motherfucker, get myself into the game, and bring the 45 billion won home. This Dakji shithead isn't down here. If he was, then there's no reason.
So yeah, that's it's just, I think just jumping straight from Korean into English, then it just kind of sounds and feels a little weird. But yeah, I think that's just one of those examples where the way language is spoken, like positionally in our mouths, is also different. So it's one of those things that like, can we make it match? Let's do our best. Also, if you've been enjoying this, don't forget to leave a like so that YouTube knows to send this video to other cool people just like you. So this is an interesting scene because Woo-seok has something in his mouth. So I actually didn't do a lot of it, but there were some points where he did kind of speak a little bit and it kind of bled over into the like struggling noises. So we'll just preview a little bit.
6분의 1. 죽을 확률은?
1 in 6. Your odds of death are now 5 in 6. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I think, one of the few parts that I did record for this. Yeah, because the rest of it is just like gurgling noises with something in his mouth that it's just like you could just use the original soundtrack and it doesn't really sound that different. For these lines, I just simple acting tricks. So this scene is probably the one I'm the most proud of because, I think it's the most emotionally intense. That is like clearly me talking. Like the previous one was super intense, but I had, something in my mouth. So it's like not very obviously me. Whereas this one is. So let's check out the Korean version and then my version.
이 새끼가 우리 형 죽였어요. 제가 실수로 주먹 2개를 했는데 모장이랑 가위 중에 여기 가위만 뺐으면 됐는데 그걸
말을 왜 안 빼가지고 이 바보같이. You fucking son of a bitch! Fucking hell! This motherfucker tied us up and killed the boss! I was sitting there with 2 rocks like an idiot. But boss had scissors and paper. All he had to do was take back the scissors. Why the fuck did he pull his hand back? Why the fuck did you just...
So yeah, I mean, the first like few moments, I think you could see Woo-seok's mouth moving, but then there's a lot of it that kind of cuts to Kyun looking distraught, and then like from the back. So there was a lot of freedom there after that kind of first little moment. And for me, I'm definitely more of a visual person in terms of like my learning and input. So just seeing that was able to kind of just bring me to life and get me where I needed to go. Getting a bit of the backstory, doing the previous scenes as well with the boss, with Mr. Kim, and seeing their relationship, like he officiated his wedding and that they go way back and stuff, and even his reaction during the Russian roulette and stuff. So yeah, it was very easy to get to that. And hopefully it came across. Super intense stuff can be really fun to do because it's like I get to go to that place emotionally without needing to like be on set and like having to like fully go. So it's like a light version of this kind of emotional stretching. I remember one time I did this show where I got to work on it for a while, like 2 to 2.5 months. But the character I was playing was just very blasé and like everything was he was just too cool for school, So it was like kind of 2.5 months of just going in and just talking. Like I'm grateful for the work, but it wasn't necessarily fun to do. This is a quick one. I just kind of want to highlight like the whole difference between like culture and language with, Korean and English.
그래, 지금은 고순장 배도 있고 이 드롱도 있잖아. 선장님, 드롱이 아니라 드론.
That's right. We have Captain Ko's boat now, too. And this drone thing.
Captain, it's a drone, okay? Not a drone.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, so that like in Korean, it sounds more like a difference between like turong and durong, I think. Whereas like in the English, they change it to be like drone and drome. And the mouths also aren't like, it's not a huge thing that you can tell anyway. So, but it was like just an interesting thing of trying to figure out like, okay, how can someone mess up saying drone in English? And also they like just added more for the captain at the end there. I think just because like his mouth kind of moves, but he just kind of like made like a dismissive noise. But because like the mouth moves enough that like in a dub version, it might confuse the viewer if they see a mouth moving so much and not have like words to go with it. So those scenes I feel like cover like a good amount of the types of challenges we generally get while doing dubbing. But if you're interested in seeing me react to other parts I've done or just other scenes in the show, let me know in the comments. But yeah, for this one, I basically got the job like kind of any other normal acting job where I auditioned for it and I booked the role. This one specifically was because my friend was working for this project already and then actually referred me to the director. But most of the time I just get auditions through my agents. Dubbing is basically just a section of the voice acting industry, which has a lot of similarities to film and TV. So if you want to know more details about how an actor gets a job in these fields, check out this video and I'll see you over there.